Well, here we are again at the Data Show. My name is Chris Greco, and I'm here to try to explain some aspects about data. Today, what we're going to talk about is cholesterol calculations. And the reason I want to do this is because I'm sure there are people out there right now that either have active heart disease, or the doctor is starting to take a look at different things with the lipid studies. And lipid studies are the ones that reveal your total cholesterol, your HDL, LDL, triglycerides, non-HDL, all these different things. And what I wanted to do was to talk with you about how that is calculated, because the calculations that were done before, and I say like before 2024, 2023, are different from the ones that are being done now. So I did a little bit of study on that, and I'm going to present to you some calculations with Excel and setting up Excel and trying to figure out different aspects of it, and to show some association between total cholesterol, HDL, LDL, and triglycerides, and how that calculation can be affected by either holding something constant or changing other things. So without further getting into the calculation itself, let's talk about different aspects of this. So the first thing we want to talk about is what they call HDL, good cholesterol. HDL is high density lipoproteins. And the high density lipoproteins are good cholesterol. They're the ones that help to cleanse the arteries. They're the ones that help to remove, it's not so much remove plaque, but it's being able to prevent plaque from getting hold. And that's an important part of your overall cholesterol. And that is, there's several ways of increasing your HDL. One of which is, first of all, there's no drug at this point in time. Now, I've done some research. Somebody can come back and say, no, Chris, there is a drug. If there's a drug that increases your HDL, I'd like to know about it, because I don't think there is. I don't think at this point there is a drug to increase your HDL. There are ways of increasing your HDL, such as exercise, drinking more fluids, eating certain foods. Although even that is really, we'll have to take a look at some of the studies on that, because it used to be like, yeah, drink more wine. No, it's not drink more wine. Drink more coffee. No, don't drink more coffee. It goes back and forth, back and forth. So it's certain things that you have to take a look at from that and be honest about it with yourself. But the HDL, the high density lipoproteins, are good cholesterol. LDL is considered to be bad cholesterol. And what it means by bad, it's not that like cholesterol is bad. It's LDL, a high LDL, low density lipoproteins. What they do is they allow plaque to take hold on the artery walls. They're when they build up, they actually facilitate that plaque, and that's why the low density lipoproteins, they want below certain things. They want, that now they're I don't know. I hate to say people are making up numbers, but it's just like, where are they getting these numbers? They're saying, oh, you want it below 70, and then, oh, you want it below 50. And, it's like, it all depends. Like if you had a heart attack, they want you below 50. So a lot of drugs like Repatha, and there's other drugs out there that are making a big deal out of getting that LDL 50 or below, and in cases 70 and below. So that's what we're going to talk about today. I'm talking about this cholesterol calculation that's driving the physicians to make prescription modifications based on these cholesterol numbers. So they mean a great deal. They mean a great deal when it comes to being able to do those types of things that are important to keep yourself healthy. So I think it's very important to make sure we do that. The last aspect of this whole thing is triglycerides. And triglycerides, or what they call very low density lipoproteins times 5. Triglycerides is divided by 5. Triglycerides divided by 5 is actually VLDL. It's basically the same number. And these can be affected by what you eat. And that's why fasting versus non-fasting is important for the lipid profile. But it's interesting how those things, I mean, you can have a peanut butter and jelly sandwich before you walk in and have your test, and that can kick your triglycerides up, 20, 30 points. I mean, that's how much they go up. So you have to kind of be careful about what you eat. And triglycerides, fried foods, sugars, any type of sugary foods, that type of thing will drive up your triglycerides. VLDL is interesting because they're saying now that they want VLDL below 30, which is like, again, I don't know where they come up with these numbers. And everyone sits there and says, well, they come up with it because it's a bunch of studies. Well, we'll take a look at that in the future. Right now, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about cholesterol calculations. We're going to stick with that. So right now, we're going to talk about two types of calculations. And we're going to talk about this one first, the Sampson calculation. The Sampson calculation is extremely complex. We're about to go to that, and I'm going to show you how to set this up in Excel so that you can, figure this out. But we're going to talk about that calculation. The Friedewald calculation, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, if not, somebody let me know. That was a relatively simple calculation. It was the total cholesterol equals the LDL plus the HDL plus triglycerides over 5. That came up with your triglyceride, your total cholesterol. And it's interesting because then you could reverse it, right? You could say your LDL is your total cholesterol minus your HDL minus your triglycerides over 5. Well, they did a study and they found that high triglycerides, I mean like 800, my triglycerides are like 60 to 80, 60 to 90. They're like 800, 700, 500. It wasn't accurately assessing the LDL. So they made this formula, the Sampson formula, which we'll go into, and it's impossible to get all on one screen. that's why I'm going to go over it separately. And that is a very complex formula to try to take into consideration triglycerides. Triglycerides as a variable is a lot of three different calculations within the Sampson calculation, 3 different ones, and we'll go over that. Whereas in the Friedewald, it was done one time. So that is something that we need to take a look. We need to review and we need to evaluate, and that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to review and evaluate those right now. So the first thing I want to do is I want to go to Excel and show you this formula, and then we'll show you the formula in the study itself that came out. So this is how I did it. I put the total cholesterol. Now these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. These first eight rows are actually real, honest to God numbers. These are numbers. These are real numbers. So the rest of these, I'll show you what I did with those in a second. So what I did was you have the total cholesterol, which is the number. That's not a big deal. HDL, which is also a number. Triglycerides. And then this stuff is calculated. It's not direct measurement, but that's okay. I'm sorry, the HDL and triglycerides I think are direct. Non-HDL is something that's important in there. It's the total cholesterol minus the HDL-C gives you the non-HDL-C. And the only reason I'm coming up with that is because it's in the actual formula. Now, the first time you have A2, the total cholesterol, over 0.548. That's going to be your first calculation. Your second calculation is going to be B2, HDL, over 0.971. Then the third one, you get into really interesting stuff. C2, which is triglycerides, over 8.56, plus C2, triglycerides, times D2, which is your non-HDL-C, over 2140, minus C2, again, triglycerides, squared over 16,100. That's your third one. And then your fourth, which is interesting, is just minus 944. And then the total formula here is this one, E2 minus F2 minus G2 minus H2, and that gives you the total formula here. So the interesting thing, and the reason I'm saying this whole aspect about this show, is this right here. Is this is the Sampson formula that I just did, and I came up with 69.1. Now, an LDL of 69 is perfectly good. Low, below 70, never had a heart attack. This individual never had a heart attack. So in other words, below 70 is perfectly legitimate. 69 is fine. It was reported to be 73. Because it was reported as 73, the doctor called the patient and said, look, we'd like to up your meds. And I'm sitting there going, why would you up my meds when I did the same calculation, which should have been done correctly? And I don't know what happened here, but it came up with 73. So I did a couple more of these, and I came up, this one is a total of 80. The reported is 84. This one is 72. The reported is 71. This one is 70. Reported is 70, which is fine. This one is 68. The reported is 66. This one is 66. The report is 67. This one, calculated again, Sampson, using Sampson's, all using Sampson, is 53. The report is 52. This one especially, this is a direct measurement, which means the reported is 66. That's a direct measurement. This is not calculated. The LDL was actually directly assessed from the blood. This is 2 off. So if it was 68 and that came up with 70, they would sit there and go, well, Chris, you need to, you as a patient, if I was the patient, you need to up your statins, or you need to go on another formulary, or you need to do whatever. So I thought, what's going on here? Why is there such a difference in some cases and no difference in other cases? So what I did was I thought, I'm just going to kind of mess with this. I'm going to take and I'm going to make the total cholesterol constant. I'm going to make the HDL constant, but I'm going to change the triglycerides. I'm going to make it, so I ran between 70 to 300. So anywhere between 70 and 300. And you can see once it gets above a certain level, it goes into the red, which is, anything above, I think it's anything above 90 or anything. So what happened is that this, you can see here, right, is the area that we're talking about. So what I did was I made it so that as this, if you have a triglyceride of like 131, your LDL is pretty doggone high. It's 126, right? But if you take a look at this one, this is an elevated 205. This is above 131, but yet your LDL is 114. So what I did was I went ahead and charted this Sampson formula. When your triglycerides go up, now this takes into consideration the idea that the more that there's a couple things that's you have to focus on, and that is that the total cholesterol here, the total cholesterol is consistent at 200. A lot of people might think, my gosh, that's big, right? That's huge, whatever. And by increasing this triglyceride with keeping this constant, something has to be equalized. And I think that's where this equalization is important to understand. So what I did then, I thought, okay, I'm going to take and I'm going to make, I'm going to go ahead and do some sliders here. Triglycerides, total cholesterol, and HDL. So what I did was I thought, okay, I'm going to set, and this is, so this is triglycerides. This triglycerides, total cholesterol, HDL, and then the LDL result is here using the Sampson formula. So what you can do is you can set the triglycerides down. As you can see, if the total cholesterol remains the same and those triglycerides come down, look what happens to the LDL. The LDL just, it, so I'll bring the total cholesterol down, and it'll bring the LDL down because total cholesterol comes down, right? If I take the triglycerides and shove them up, and the total cholesterol, I come up, right? But I bring in the HDL, look what happens. Look what happens when the HDL goes. LDL falls. So as HDL gets up, 75, your LDL, even though you have a triglyceride of 477, which is insane, all right, your HDL is going to be 75. So you're doing really good things like you're exercising, doing whatever, and your LDL is 66.5. So your LDL is good to go. You never had a heart attack, or even if you have heart disease but never had a heart attack, 66.5 is great. But now you got to get treated for triglycerides. Now there was a drug back in the early 90s, late 80s called Lopid, and I'm hoping it's off the market now because it gave some people some liver situations. But I mean, that was literally done. That was literally prescribed to treat triglycerides. That's it. So your LDL, and that's the whole reason for the Sampson formula, was to take into consideration the high triglyceride readings. That's what it was done for. So if you want to, I have a separate YouTube video on how to do these sliders, and it really is, once you get them done, it's so nice to be able to change these, and you don't have to worry about any of this area. You don't have to do separate ones for every one, it's just a pain. I mean, you have a triglyceride, of 504, and your total cholesterol is 142. You have an LDL of 4. It's just so. I mean, it gets, you can get almost ridiculous with this stuff. So this is probably more. This would actually be. There we go. If you get like a 60, I think you're in good shape. But I mean, your triglycerides would be 504. You could have a HDL of 65. You still have an LDL of 90.8, which is going to be pretty high. But if I increase it, this. So what I'm saying is, do your own calculations. Get your lipid study and put the numbers in this worksheet. I mean, it's, hopefully you can take this, and I'm going to put this on YouTube also. You can take it on YouTube, and you can take your total cholesterol number. This is a number. This is a number. But then we start, these different aspects here, which if I'm not mistaken, I think I can. What was it? Yeah. So this is your formulas. These are your formulas right here. Okay. So these are your formulas. There's a lot of formulas here, right? But you can slow this thing down, and you can go, you can go one at a time through this, and you can get these formulas. Yep. You can do these formulas bit by bit, one by one, right? I even included the Friedewald for you here. So I included that because that was important for me to see this Friedewald difference. And it was interesting because the reported difference 73, Friedewald 69, 84, 80, 71, 71, good, 70, 70, 66, 66, 67, 66.8, 52, 52.2. I have a feeling these three, these right here were Friedenwald. I think they started the Sampson here. You can see where there's, 84, 80 for Friedenwald, 73, 68 for Friedenwald. So it all depends what type of calculation they're using. This patient here does not have high triglycerides. Because they don't have high triglycerides, they should not be a candidate. See, these are not high triglycerides. This may be considered high. I don't know. This may be considered high. But even taking into consideration the Sampson formula on these, we're fine. So, this is definitely not high. This is definitely not high. This is not high. And even the 90 is not high. So those should be done with Friedenwald, not with Sampson. That's just, I'm not a doctor, so I have a PhD behind my name, so it's like it doesn't mean anything, but that's another story. So let's go to the actual study on this. This is a study by the Journal of American Medical Association Cardiology. A new equation for calculation of low density lipoprotein cholesterol in patients with nomolipidemia and or hypertriglyceridemia. Triglyceridemia. So it's like, what the heck does that mean? So anyway, the and or low level of low density lipoprotein cholesterol. So basically, is it possible to provide a more accurate estimate of low density lipoprotein cholesterol in patients with high triglycerides and or that or is important, low level of low density lipoprotein cholesterol? So they talk about this, and they talk about LDL cholesterol, which is good, and then 8,656 patients, fantastic. That's actually really good. Seen at National Institute of Health Clinic between January 1st, 1976, and June 2nd, 1999. So, what, 25 years, 26 years, since the last one was done. So, equation was tested against internal validation data set in multiple external data sets of either beta quantification, LDL-C results, N equals 28,000, or direct LDL-C results. I like this. Direct, not quantification, which is basically calculation, but direct results. And it was done 6 years ago. So they talked about this, and they talked about correlation coefficient and everything else. They found that the R squared is a correlation coefficient. Let's talk about correlation. We've talked about this in the past. Correlation is not causation. Correlation draws an association between two factors. There is a thing called spurious correlation, which those two factors may have nothing to do with one another, but for whatever reason, the correlation is high. R squared is 0.96, which actually is a very high correlation. It's actually very, very high. Anything above 0.8 really is considered to be pretty high. So that is this is what root mean squared error. So and it talks about the Martin equation, the Friedewald equation, all that. But let's talk about what the equations are. So this is the Friedewald equation, which I just said. Total cholesterol minus HDL-C minus triglycerides over 5, right? The main source of error is triglycerides over 5, they think, which serves as an estimate of very low density lipoprotein, VLDL, right? So now they're saying, well, that's have been described, but most are not significantly better than the Friedewald equation compared with the beta quantification reference method, whatever it is. So they're going to talk about these are the results, which is fine. But then this is it. Equation 1 was this one right here. That's how you come up with the VLDL. That's how you come up with the VLDL. So this is what this one is. We didn't do that one. What we did was we did equation number 2, which is, and then they show this, which is really interesting. It shows as, see, this is 0, this is 320 for triglyceride levels. That's down here. That's down here. See how close it is to the line, to the actual regression line? Then they're saying, oh, equation 1, look what it does. Equation 2, as people get up in triglycerides, it gets further away from that center mean area. Whereas down here, which is the 0 to 320, it's closer. So I don't understand why use this equation 1 when the free vault is fine for those people somewhere between 0 and about 100, 100 or so. So it's interesting. Anyways, this is the one that I used right here. This is the one I used. This is the Sampson equation. It's called equation 2. And this is the one that I put up there. So check it. Check to make sure that my translation into Excel was correct on this whole thing. But this is the Sampson equation, and this is what came out of this study. So that's it. That pretty much ends the overall aspect of this. I think it's very important to understand that this is one view, is my view of this whole situation based on my personal experience with it and all the other things go along with that. Do your own Excel spreadsheet, do the calculations I have, and email me, please, and let me know, did it work? Did it not work? Did you talk to your doctor about this? How does this all work? Because if you have high triglycerides, then certainly the Sampson equation is for you, because that's, that will help to better accurately describe the LDL. But if your triglycerides are 80, if they're 90, why is it that they're using this really extensive, complex equation that could actually put you in a situation where they're prescribing you more medications than what you need to be able to get to that point where you already are according to your own calculations. Also, my contention is, why did my calculation using the same numbers that they use, because they put in the test that it was a Sampson calculation, why did my numbers differ from the numbers that they presented to the point where my number was lower than 70, which would not have afforded the prescription of more medication? So that's kind of bothersome to me, and I hope that you will take this and use this as a springboard to be able to get into more detail for your own doing. And that's really about it. So thank you so much for tuning into the Data Show. This will probably come in air either October, November, sometime in there. And please stay healthy, take care of yourself, and please get with your doctor. Find out exactly what's going on and make sure that they're just not taking numbers and basing everything on those numbers. Thank you so much, and take care of yourselves. Stay healthy, and by all means, make sure you check the data.